United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Cochran.
Present.
Commissioner Walsh.
Present.
Commissioner Fairchild.
Present.
Commissioner Castranio.
Present.
Commissioner Martin.
Present. So, by way of announcements, I have none other than Rick came back from vacation, so we're going to give him credit for the nice weather today. So spring is coming. I also wanted to mention that many of us know John Thomas, who was a Hamden Township commissioner for 33 years, active in COG as well as the State Association, and he passed within the last week. Services are this weekend, and so I wanted to indicate that because he had an influence much greater than just Hamden Township. So our thoughts and prayers are with that family. With the materials, we have our minutes of February 19. Are there any questions, additions, or corrections?
Move
Mr.
approval.
Martin, I caught one. Are you ready, Joe?
No, well,
Just on page 6, a reference to Joe Bocci. His
okay.
name is spelled Botchie. It's near the bottom on page 6.
Yep. Thank you. Any other?
And then I had on, I think it's page, near the end, there was a reference after Jim's
Commissioner
comments.
Fairchild, I apologize. Can you move your mic a little closer just so we
Yeah,
can hear you?
it's down from the picture.
Thank you.
There was a reference to me suggesting a video with a budget presentation. And I'm not a video person, so I don't know how that reference ever got in there.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah,
What page is that on?
it's near the end. I can't find it, but maybe Jim caught it too. Yeah. So that's all I have for
Okay,
the minutes.
thanks,
So
Eric.
thank you.
Anyone else? I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second? Second. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you, Alexis. They are approved with those two suggested corrections. I'm going to change the agenda just slightly and do the consent agenda, and then I'm going to move 7A, which is Grantham Pond, up next, since the majority, if not all of our residents that are attending tonight. Hopefully you came just because you want a night out and participated. But in the event that's not true, I know you're here to talk about Grantham Pond. So the consent agenda include the staff reports along with the solicitor's report, engineer's report, et cetera. Are there any questions of any of the authors of those reports?
I'm going to ask that we take 1C, the financial security for Willows at Ashcombe, separately, as I am going to be abstaining because I am employed by the developer's engineer.
Thank you, Rick, and you did mention that. So we're really looking at the consent agenda items 1A and B, including bills to be paid in the amount of $389,640.40. Are there questions on either of those two items?
I had a question on the manager's report.
Okay.
The reference to the spring newsletter and the survey. Is the survey going to be included in the newsletter? Is it going to be like detachable or?
I apologize. I don't know.
I know that's more Tim's project,
But
at
let
least
me,
the survey.
I'll follow up and I'll
okay.
respond to the board. That'd be great.
Okay.
Do you have a mic, Alexis, or, well,
It's going to be a QR code. It's going to be a QR code in the upcoming spring newsletter, which will drop in a couple of weeks. It went to Messiah on 3/7. So there's a printing process. It takes about 3 weeks for them to put everything together, and then that will go out.
Okay, so there won't be a separate survey. I don't know the response rate on QR codes and all that. I guess it would depend on your.
I believe it will be posted on the website. Tim would know better how we're publicizing that.
The other thing we can always do too is we'll put a little line that if you need it sent to you or something like that, we'll provide that.
Okay.
That's a good
That's what we have done in the past for folks who may not be interested in using
Yeah, I'm just.
that part, yeah.
Getting as interested in get as best a response as we can get.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
Good suggestion. Any other thoughts or questions?
Just the only other item I wanted to mention to the other commissioners, that the fire department did put in there the Upper Township Fire
Yes.
Rescue Incentive Program for us to review and, take a look at.
And Phil and I have talked about that, and we will plan to meet with representatives of the fire department. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. Anything else? I would entertain a motion to accept items 1A and B.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Then going to the financial security release for Willows at Ashcombe. Jen?
Yes, before you is a request to release the remaining financial security for Willows at Ashcombe project that was done back in 2020. We are currently holding $52,776 and some change. Those improvements, as part of that plan, have all been completed, so we are recommending the full release. All the improvements they did are on private property, so we are not receiving anything for dedication.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
I have questions from my neighborhood on that. The financial security does not include anything with the tavern. Is that a separate?
Correct. The tavern is a completely separate project.
Okay. Thank you.
I wasn't sure what the release was for. This was already done, but there was like a waiting period of 18 months or something like that? Or-
No, this was for the improvements to the mansion and the parking lot, everything that's there now. Mostly stormwater improvements, things like that, but it's all on private site.
But it was done some time ago. I
It
thought.
was, they're just now asking for the release of the
Okay.
funds. The improvements have been completed, you're correct, for a while. They just have not asked for the official release of the funds
Okay.
until now.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to take action to release the financial security.
I move to authorize the proper township officials to release the financial security to the developer for the Willows at Ashcombe Development, Upper Allen Township File 20-01-22. The developer is not dedicating any of the improvements to the township, therefore a maintenance bond is not required.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried, 4 yes, 1 abstention. Okay, then we will migrate to our agenda item 7A, which is authorization to advertise for bids for Grantham Pond Improvements Project. And I will now, thanks for signing up, the folks that did, and please come forward, state your name and address, and your input, questions, concerns, whatever is on your mind with respect to this. So,
Mr. President, should we go over the project first and
to
say
review
what,
it.
say what we're
That's a
asking
good
for?
idea.
Thank you, sir. Listed as item 7A is a memo from Assistant Township Manager Tim Wendling requesting permission to advertise bids for the Grantham Park Improvement Project. This project will overall cost us approximately $1.1 million, around $1 million. We did get a grant from Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for $250,000. The project includes, includes site work, stormwater management, pond improvements, so we're going to dredge the pond, return it to its depth, a gazebo pier to go into the deep area, and you can see some of this up there, and water intake pipe, which, if people are familiar with the pond, has not really worked for a couple of years, and then trail installation in 2026. So in 2025, we're focusing on the pond and the pavilion, and in 2026, we'll be focusing on the rest of the hardscape, the paths and the parking area. Chad is here, our Parks Director. Do you have anything else to add to that, Chad?
Not really that. The playground is a separate point of this. That'll be going in a few weeks as well.
Right, so the playground is a separate project. The equipment has already been purchased. The previous playground equipment has already been removed. What is the schedule for that to be installed?
So the old playground equipment was pulled out. We're going to send our crew down next week to start excavation, and then the installer should be in the first or second week of April. So by the end of April, everything should be done and ready to use.
So, and then, Jason, do you have anything else we need, I may have missed, related to our request to advertise for the pond renovations or dredging?
I don't think any specifics other than, the scope of the work, as you mentioned, does include a 760-foot intake pipe that goes further upstream on Trout Run to feed this pond. We are modifying the outfall structure to increase the water level beyond what we have currently. It's going to assist us in gaining additional depth there. That will have fish grates on it as well to keep any fish that we go through the restocking process from escaping the pond itself. It actually have a baffle system to allow Parks Department to make adjustments throughout the year with that water level, understanding that there's minimal grades from the stream to the pond. During summer months, we can hold back some extra water. When water flows are high, we can adjust that. So that's another addition that is going to be an improvement there as well. The depiction on the screen does show 2,700 linear feet of trail, which is going to really allow access throughout the limits of the park, because we currently really just have a unimproved brick walkway from the parking lot directly up to the pavilion. So this will allow residents and park users really to reach the full extent of the property.
Thank you, and I think it's important to note that this is a two-year project, so it's not all going to happen this year, but hopefully by New Year's Eve of '27, we'll be in good shape. Thanks, staff, for that input, and now I'll turn to our residents. I think, Dick, you're first up. Dick Wagner? If you would approach the microphone, give us your name and address, and then what's on your mind, and try to keep it within 5 minutes.
Richard Wagner, 717 Grantham Road. I took my kids, I never fished much. I swam in it, and we skated there for years. I guess that's over with, but it is a very nice place to take your young kids for fishing. And I just told Randy, in the angler, Pennsylvania angler, I used that, and they had a little kid holding up his fish. It wasn't a real big fish, but he was so proud of it. So I think it's worth saving. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Well, we hope that we're going to get more pictures of kids fishing. David Foster?
Just for the record, I'm not a resident here, but I reside in Dillsburg, but I teach at Messiah University. I want to affirm very much the value of this as a resource for us. The study that we were able to do for the township, it elevates the students' classroom. I run 2 of my classes as consulting companies for external clients, and we'd be happy to continue that relationship with the park. But I just really want to affirm the value of this resource for not only the township, but for the university as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Cindy Strime? Straney? I'm sorry.
That's all right.
We'll just stick with Cindy, okay?
That's good. I'm Cindy Straney and down near Grantham Pond is my backyard. And I'm just so excited that we're getting this back in. Over the last few years since COVID, I've seen people bringing their grandchildren back and moms with their little kids. And not to, after him about the fish, I remember about 2 years ago, a little boy caught a big carp. I don't know how he did it. And he was little, and he's like so proud of this carp, and he's yelling, "Mom, look!" And she's like, "Put it back!" But I'm so excited that you guys are following through with this park. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you. Kim Slaughter? Oh, okay. Daryl Smith? Oh, there you are.
I'm Darrell Smith, 2718 High Street, Grantham. I live just across Grantham Road from where the pond is. I moved into Grantham in 1987. I love going down around that pond, walking around it and seeing everything going on. Well, the last 25, 30 years, there hasn't been much down there to see. The pond's grown, couldn't even see much water in it and so forth, so I stopped going down around the pond. It's good to see the end of it where the park is. Sometimes I see some kids down there, the playground playing. I took notice that everything was taken off of that park this weekend for whatever reason. Anyhow, I look forward to seeing that pond back in so I can walk down there, walk around the pond. It's great on a morning or even in the fall to walk around a pond like that. I look forward to it. I know my wife does too. She's been a lifelong resident of Grantham.
Good.
So
She couldn't be here tonight.
the old equipment was taken out because new equipment's being put in.
Well, that's
So-
what, something along that line. I figured it was a
Yep.
reason.
Yep, that's
I just
correct.
knew it
And
wasn't
it's
there.
going to be better.
It'd be nicer.
It's accessible equipment as well, so that'll be, yeah. So starting in 27, I expect to see you down there every day, okay? Is that a deal?
I'll be there a good bit.
All right.
Lord willing.
Thank you.
you.
Helena?
Hi, I'm Helena Cicero. I live at 108 Stoner Drive, which is right above where Grantham Pond is and the Grantham Park. And I have 2 points I want to make. I walk through Grantham almost every day, and this is really exciting. I usually walk down Grantham Road. I sometimes go in around the pond, but if there are trails there, that will make it much more attractive. So for that reason, I'm in favor of this. I also work at Messiah University where I'm at the Oaks Museum, and I'm also involved in sustainability on campus. So as a local representation of a pond community, we often use Grantham Pond as that, and we invite folks to go there, and we take samples from it for camps we run at the museum. So I think that's worth, and I was trying to think where else could we direct them to a local pond. It really is, I don't know, anyway. So for that purpose, I think it's great, and so I'm excited. So yeah, I'm in support.
Barb? Oh, you don't want to speak, okay. Randy?
She'll let me speak.
Oh, you're doing. Do you have her voice? Are you speaking for her, Randy? Or?
I'm hopefully on the same page on this. If not, I'm in trouble. Randy Castle, I live at 824 Grantham Road, which is adjacent to the community park. I just have a couple quick things to say, and maybe some historical insights here just real quickly too. We heard some rumblings that there was some resistance to the work you folks are advocating for the pond. And so we wanted you to know that there's an awful lot of people, and a whole lot more than came tonight, that would come and speak on behalf of the work that you're about to do, hopefully do on the pond. I don't remember the year, Ken, but I think it was probably 2013 or 14. It's been 10 or 11 years since I've been here and spoke about the pond, when you first started considering the dredging and the renovations. And the bill sort of outclassed what we were capable of as a township at that time, and I certainly understood that, but it's long overdue. The pond was dug in 1946 by local sportsmen. I'm not sure what year the township acquired it, but in 1959 it was dredged, 13 years after it was built. But that was at a time when there was an infinite amount of agriculture on Lisburn Road and above Stumpstown and out towards Windsor, all which that sediment came to the pond. So in 13 years, they had to dredge it in order to maintain a fishery in that for the local sportsmen. Now we're 60 years later, 65 years later, and it hasn't been dredged once since then. So it's been long overdue, which was a discussion in 2013. I've heard people say, well, if they dredge it, it's just going to fill in again. Most of that agricultural land isn't there anymore. Most of it's developments with lawns. Fortunate or unfortunate, that's the way it goes. But the Lebo farm is still there. And so it still puts a ton of sediment down that intermittent stream channel coming through the south side of Center Square Press. And I think that's something that should be looked at a little bit, as you're going to spend over $1 million to fix this thing. that there's probably some things that can be done as buffer zones, compensation to LIBO to give up some acreage, whatever, something to collect that sediment so we're not dealing with it in Trout 1, but we're also not dealing with it dropping out in the pond again. But it lasted 65 years the first time. It's going to last a whole lot longer. So we're not going to have to worry about that. But I think it's something to at least give a little thought to. So anyhow, like the rest of the folks here, we're really, really excited about what you're going to do here. And the proposition of having it deep enough and cold enough and aerated for a fishery, for hopefully for children this time, I'm hoping, and maybe not so much for adults, at least for a span of time, because that was part of the problem. As you know, when I moved into Grantham in 1984 to the pond and saw the fishery that was there during the early spring stockings, it was great, but there were adults who took advantage of it, and that's a shame, because it should be a fishery for kids. And I mean, they don't do enough outside as it is, so that's just maybe a thought. So, yeah, I think that's probably about it.
Yeah, I lived in Spacious Acres for a number of years, and I had trout run in my backyard.
Yeah.
And when my son was young, we would walk down Trout Run to the pond, and we called exploring. We'd go exploring down that way. Or if it was a real adventurous day, we'd go under the highway on the cow route and go over there and go to Gettysburg. So I'm really excited to see it come back. It was really nice.
Yeah, it's a great ecosystem, and I still take students there to see frogs, all kinds of frogs that are in there. I mean, that's especially for herpetologists, but yeah, it's more than just a fishery.
Right.
It's a great aquatic ecosystem. So.
And the problem was it had a hole, it had a leak. And we just didn't have enough water coming in, and then we realized that the intake line had collapsed over the years.
Right.
And so it's expensive, but we're doing things that you're not going to have to do again, hopefully, for 65 years.
Right,
okay?
exactly. Yeah.
And we'll be using PCV pipe now, not corrugated, and hopefully it'll be even better than it's ever been.
It sounds like it. Yeah, well, we all applaud you for what's happening.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the support.
Yeah.
We don't get applause very often, so we enjoy it.
Did he do okay, Barb? I'm sorry? Did he do okay? He did it. All right, okay. Tanya?
Good evening.
Hi.
Tanya Brown, 834 Grantham Road. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Chad and
Eddie.
Eddie. I was at the PRPS conference, and it's very well deserved. We have the best parks in central Pennsylvania, and I tell all my friends that if they want to see a good park, and I expect this to be the same when you're finished in 2 years. I've lived in Grantham my entire life, except for 6 months when we moved to Tennessee, and my parents decided they wanted to come back to Grantham. So growing up, our home is right above the end of this pond, this end of the pond. So my days as a young child was to walk down to the playground. That was staffed. And 9 to 12, Monday through Friday, that's where you found us, with a fishing derby every year. And that's where I learned how to fish, and I didn't really have a choice. My dad taught us how to fish there, and that's where we fished. But I'm hoping that the same thing that Randy just said, that we do have the fishery come back, since it's not going to be ice skating anymore with the standards of Pennsylvania and that aspect. So, you know, if we can bring back the fishing, and with walking being the number one thing that Americans do, I'm really happy that you're putting trails around there. Because as Helena said, and as Mr. Lawver said, you know, to come off of Grantham Road, which sometimes is dangerous, because that whole sidewalk thing we don't have. So it's best that we get off the main road and be able to walk there. And I'll be honest, as a college student at Messiah, my running was behind I can't think of it, the dance studio.
Oh.
There's a makeshift trail, and it was down through here, and I had permission from Mr. Banzoff to go under Route 15, to go over to Ashcombs and come back for my 3.5 miles that I didn't have to be on a road. So if there's any way we can expand the walking trail in the future, it's something that needs to be done. So.
Yeah, we did look at the water company across the creek. They were agreeable to letting us do the trail around there, but getting environmental permits across the creek
Right.
and the wetlands was
Atrocious.
not gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm sure. I understand that.
But something to keep in mind.
You never know. You never know.
And
So,
and we do have a commitment, I think, Chad, we have a commitment for Fish and Game to stock it once it's done?
Yeah, we don't have all the logistics yet, but at the beginning of this one, Fish and Boat came out to monitor the pond, and there was reports of snakeheads. We did get a confirmation that they would stock it with at least bass and sunnies in the future.
And it would be great if it was for, like they said, for children only. There's no need for men to be down there taking the fish out of the pond when they have yellow breaches around the corner.
Right.
So, I don't know, am I allowed to say anything about the boat launch or the kayak launch while we're in Parks and Rec or not?
Well, we aren't really yet in Park and Rec, but,
Oh, okay, you
well,
meant
we
it. I just
started.
want to say, I don't look disabled, but let me tell you, I would use a handicapped accessible kayak input area anywhere in the township, to go anywhere. And I believe, believe it or not, I go to Messiah Village every day to exercise, and I guarantee you there's about 50% of those people that would do the same, utilizing that. You can't always tell by looking at somebody whether they need it or not, and we need to meet the diversity of our township, and as we're growing older, I think to meet the needs of all the people is very critical. So, I mean, just like we have handicapped walkability there, we need walkability to get onto what our forefathers gave us, which was water. We love our water and we want to be on the water, and I can't be on the water right now. So I'm looking forward to that too, the
Okay, well,
gazebo
no,
going out.
thanks, and we will remember that one.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank- Anyone else that wants to speak with respect to Grantham Pond? I just wanted to, before I forget, mention to you folks as residents, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for coming to a township meeting when you could be doing 100 other things. But the support and the input from citizens that are impacted by an improvement like this is very meaningful to the board. And so thank you for your input. Okay.
I just wanted to second that. I joked about it, but we frequently hear complaints, and it's rare we hear praise, so thank you again for the praise. It's really appreciated.
I had a question.
Sure.
Maybe some of the audience could answer. We've been discussing or wondering about the quality of the dredged material and how we can use it. Could it be used in people's gardens? You know, will it be contaminated somehow by farm runoff? We don't know what to expect there, but I don't know if anybody has an opinion on that or can give us some information.
I thought they did a survey on the soil content of it, and the soil content of it was really good, so.
Yes, that was probably a decade ago.
Probably during that 2013.
Yeah, so at that time, it was very good. But unfortunately, the topsoil market has kind of collapsed. You can't even give it away now, so.
But I think the question's appropriate, and Dave, you don't have to answer now, but I'm sure you're thinking about that, and so please communicate with our staff and engineer if you have
My
thoughts.
guess is if it was good in 2013, the inputs from upstream haven't changed that much. It's certainly
Right.
worth testing before you give it away.
Well, we will do that anyway. Yeah.
Well, we hadn't intended to give it away, just for clarity. The thought was that we have a low area over at Winding Hills North that still needs some fill, and we would truck it over there and fill in over there. And then someone mentioned, well, in fact, it was Paul Rigney, who was a former commissioner, said that it was tested back about 10 years ago, and it was at that time, there was a real market for that kind of topsoil, very rich topsoil, and it turned out that the dredging ended up being extremely expensive. It was probably at least this expensive, and that was a decade ago. So, you know, we've grown used to more expensive prices than we were 10 years ago, and so we had to drop the project at that time. But yeah, we do have a place to go with it. But we were just wondering if there was some market for rich soil, but it'll be very wet soil, so it may take a while to dry out too.
Maybe the Messiah students would learn how to drive a pickup truck, a dump truck, and help us transport it.
Yeah. They could go home with a CDL, think about that. Not just a bachelor's, but a CDL.
All right.
Well, I do think that's one of the issues. I believe there's going to be 1,300 triaxle loads coming out of there. So there's going to be a lot of noise and probably inconvenience that way, obviously for a good cause, but, and the other location it's going is Bumblebee, the quarry.
perhaps,
So
yeah.
that could be a distribution point for the material if it turns out to be as good as we hope it is.
It's going to be relatively rich in nutrients, so even if you used it not just as straight fill, but even a top dressing, it would probably enhance the grass quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's what the proposal is. We want to incorporate it with some of the topsoil that we have stockpiled already at Winding Hill. So there's material, subgrade material that will be reworked into the site to fill those low points, and the whole top layer will be a combination of this material and topsoil that we have on site already.
Good. Thank you.
How long, can I ask a question?
Sure.
How long will topsoil have to set to drain before you can move it, before it's moved? You're not gonna put it right into a truck coming out of the dredge.
We are potentially putting it straight into a truck, yeah. We have limited space on the property to stockpile the material to get it to drain. So we did meet with a couple contractors, reviewed the scope of work. Most of them feel that we can create a sump in the pond area and start to draw the water down. And are going to try to utilize space within the confines of the pond to do some stockpiling, force that water out of the material enough that they can put it in trucks. We'll have a provision in our spec that would require them to line their trucks as well. It's not a favorable practice by any means to do it, but they certainly have that capability. And then we think really once we get down through some of that top layer that the conditions are going to improve for us and we'll have an easier time at mobilizing that material.
Yeah. That's a good question. Thank you. And we'll try not to have watermarks the whole way through town up to Winding Hill. All right. Well, exciting. So, Jason, are you handling the proposed action?
Well, yeah, we're requesting authorization to advertise phase one of the project. Scott did mention some numbers. Our latest estimate with all improvements included within that phase is in the range of $865,000. We are a little bit ahead with this request. We're still working out some final paperwork with DCNR before releasing the project for final bidding. So we anticipate bringing bids back to you in the May meeting for a potential start of construction in June.
So we're looking tonight for authorization to bid. Is there any questions and then proposed action?
So what's the period of work on the first phase, whether the substantial completion date?
It's going to take us into September at this point. The contractors are going to take advantage of the hottest months of the year, June through the end of August, and there will be obviously restoration work that'll be completed within September. Take advantage of our late growing season for the year.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Do we have action?
I'll move that we authorize township staff to advertise for bids for phase one of the Grantham Pond Improvements Project.
Second.
Been moved in second. Discussion. Any further comments from the audience? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Great. Thank you. All right. We will revert back to page one, and thanks again for coming. You're welcome to stay for the fun, but public safety, I don't believe we have any action, but who's on first base? Chief Parsons? Oh, oh, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a report on our new officer, Garrett Wyke. He's in the final phase of his field training, so he's out in the patrol vehicle by himself. Officer Citrone's, I think, in phase 3. Both are progressing very well. The police consortium is this Sunday. We had 60 people sign up for the consortium this time around, which is usually our going rate. for candidates to sign up. And we completed our accreditation on-site last Wednesday.
Oh, good.
And so we'll await that report. So, but that's it. I'll take any questions.
You completed the process and you haven't gotten an answer, but you're optimistic, right?
We are optimistic.
Okay, good.
No issues came up that you weren't aware of? Nothing out of the blue?
No, not at all.
Great.
Great.
Who handled most of that work this time?
I'm sorry, sir?
Who handled most of that,
There were 3 officers, an officer from Mahoning Township, Northumberland County, a chief.
I meant from our town, who was?
Oh, yes. Lieutenant Barnes and Officer Harlan
Thank you.
combined on that. They did a fantastic job. So, thank you.
Chief Schamberger.
Yeah, the fire department ran 69 calls for February at an average of 7.5 personnel per call, which is right where we want to be. Just to let everybody know, there is a burn ban on currently in the township, and that extends to April 9th. So it gives everything a chance to green up and all the dry brush to disappear, so. Basically, no fires other than a cooking type fire, charcoal fire. Other than that, everything else is banned until the 9th.
Great. And that even includes, even if you have an outdoor container, you're still not allowed to.
Right, yeah, burn barrels, anything
Yeah.
like that, not until, the fire has to be used specifically for cooking.
Okay.
You know, charcoal or that type of thing.
Any question of our chiefs?
Mr. Martin, I guess I wanted to thank you for including the Lower Swatara program. And I believe I heard you say you're going to meet with the chief, you and Mr. Walsh or something. But shouldn't that agreement be reviewed by the solicitor or like the labor advisor? I mean, sooner rather than later. I mean, they're paying, they're not it's how they're classifying the people, but some money is exchanging hands. So I just didn't know.
Just so you're clear from what we wanted to meet and discuss the idea as public safety liaisons, but before we would implement it and or endorse it, I think we would go through those processes, yes. I don't think we don't perceive we're that far along yet.
Okay, I just
But
think the
to
sooner
that,
you
to that
find out
point,
if it's.
I
it's
presume
valid.
that the Swartar agreement was reviewed by solicitors before when they did it, but we could have Steve take a look at it as well. Okay, planning and zoning, there's no action items. Anything to report, Jen?
Nothing to report right now. Well, I guess I will note we do not have a planning commission meeting scheduled for this month on the 31st. That has been canceled, so.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Public improvements.
Yes, item 4A is the request to award the project for the replacement of the McCormick Bridge. Bridge UA 105, I believe. The low bid was Kinsley at $217,800. As you recall, this project will be partially funded by the county small bridge project program. So the county will cover 50% of the contract as well as 50% of our engineering expenses related to getting this project completed. Do you have anything else to add on to that, Jason? Anything you observed?
Just that our estimate was in the range of $315,000. We did receive 6 bids in total. We felt that it was very competitive bidding overall. Kinsley Construction Site Work Company is a reputable company, and we feel very confident in their ability to complete this project. We did reach out to them because their bid was slightly lower than some of their competitors, and they did guarantee their pricing and assured us that there were no errors of omission as their bid submission, so.
Great. Questions? Comments?
I just wanted to say, I think it's a very good bid. I was looking at the tabulation, and it seems to be the precast component is where the difference mainly is. So they found a better source to do that, I believe, or
I believe so.
suspect. So it's a lesson learned. I'm just glad it turned out this way.
Okay, if there are no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to authorize.
I'll move that we authorize township staff to award the contract to replace the McCormick Bridge to Kinsley Construction in the amount of $217,800.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Listed as item 4B is a request to advertise for the 2025 roadway improvement project. We budgeted $1.435,000 out of permanent improvement and liquid fuels. The total estimate for the roadway projects, separate from sewer and stormwater and parks, was $1,812,619. Of that money, $519,845 are alternates. Currently, there's a fund balance in the permanent improvement of $804,531. Plus, we will all recognize approximately $100,000 budgetary savings due to the lower bid cost of the McCormick Bridge replacement UA 105.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Are we still going to pave that portion of Hemlock Drive if we don't do the stormwater?
So all of the meetings leading up to this point, including the Public Improvements Committee and staff discussions, have basically been in support of proceeding with paving Hemlock, regardless of the outcome of the final decision for installation of stormwater improvements on Hemlock.
Thank you.
So it certainly can be an item of discussion for this board.
If the other improvements, sewer, stormwater, et cetera, moved forward and would delay Hemlock, is there an opportunity to wait to pave Hemlock till later in the season after some of those other improvements are completed?
Within reason, the outfit that does the cold in place recycling, it's a rather extensive train, if you will, of equipment, and they tend to mobilize from one site to the next. We certainly could encourage them to start on the Whitebriar development to do that work and postpone Webercroft to the end of their construction period. However, they will want to come to the township and complete all of that work and then move on to their next site because of the extensive nature of mobilizing that equipment.
Right. Okay.
It's a little bit of time, but
Yeah,
not
it
a
might
lot.
be a way to buy a little time if we start with Whitebriar. Okay, other comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Sure.
Did you have one, Jim? So we have the road plan that was most recently done in 2023 that lists all the streets and the process and the strategy behind how we're dealing with the roads, which is geared toward preservation of what we have and trying to, I guess, delay or avoid the full rehabilitation.
There isn't a more current version of that. There's a 2024 plan. It should be on the website. Yes and no. We started this road plan, I guess, in 2014. It was originally intended to be, I think, a 10-year, and as we got into it, it was extended to a 15-year plan. We focus heavily on preservation treatments early in that plan cycle. The goal is to try to preserve roadways and have the life of those roadways early in that total plan, and then begin to focus on roads that have greater deterioration towards the end of the plan. So we're basically 10 years plus into that total plan, and you're starting to see a lot of the roads that were in poor condition back in 2014 now come within the cycle for improvement. So we really haven't had preservation now, I think, for 2 years straight. All of our work has been heavier on reconstruction. In the next couple of years, you'll see that again as we're treating these roads that are in disrepair.
As you described it when we first started this program, there comes a point where it doesn't make sense to try and preserve a road anymore. You just want to let it deteriorate because the money you would put in would not give you a significant return for expending it. So once it kind of gets over the tipping point, we were just going to leave them go and realize that we'd have to rebuild them at a later date. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, the cost of that construction improvement is always going to be high, and so we defer that towards the back of the plan, understanding that we're saving money through the preservation treatment process earlier in the earlier years of the plan.
So what I noticed going through the plan, and then you had the different treatments, and then the costs per square yard and the estimated life, and I looked at it like a menu or, a housewife shopping in the grocery store, what's the best value? But, and then I liked how each road was identified, by year it'll be done or the name of the road. But in the 2023 plan, which is the most recent I had seen, maybe another one is on the website, but like Broadmoor, the first one listed here, that was to be overlay in that plan, and that is a cost of $9.50 a yard back then. I know it's probably higher. And now it's cold in place recycling that's showing a cost on that table of $31.25 a square yard. And then, okay, the overlay has a life of 10 to 15 years. Cold in place recycling just shows a 15-year life. So it just seems like we're using a much higher grade of material than what was even proposed a couple years ago. And then I drove around and looked at the roads, and I give the staff credit. Somebody put like tar on all the cracks. It's like a work of art. Somebody must have been very labor intensive, but I can see how that would preserve, you're stopping that water flow. So I didn't know if that's what triggered the change in treatment, and is that cost difference, justified?
Yes. So we tried to update this annually. Admittedly, we do not drive every single road every year. So some of the recommendations do have some age to them. So the wearing course, I'd have to look at the plan when we first made that recommendation. With further assessment of those conditions, we determined that that was not the appropriate treatment, that we needed to do a more intensive reconstruction practice there ahead of placing that wearing course. I think in this case, we're going to ultimately save money because the overall structure of that roadway is going to basically be restored to new, as opposed to just putting a top coat on it and allowing the underlayment material to continue to break up and fall apart, in other words. So a little bit more expense than what we had originally proposed. However, in the long term, I think it's going to be a benefit for the municipality.
Again, when we go back to how this was first presented to us, you make some assumptions when you go into how far down the road you're going to do these things. And those assumptions don't always prove true. You can have something fail on a street that you had no idea was going to fail. Or you can have a winter that affects one street for some reason worse than you anticipated. So over the years, we've shuffled frequently that we've had a street or an area that just completely collapsed earlier than we thought it would. So you had to bring it to the forefront, push things back. And as you push things back, what you had originally proposed for them may no longer be adequate, and you may need to do something more. So we've always tried to do the most cost-effective at each point in time, but over time, things change, and we have no control over the weather or what's happening underneath the surface. And we don't go down around and do core samplings everywhere to see what's going on down below the top of the asphalt. So there's assumptions made as to what the underlying conditions are.
And the only other thing I was thinking of, we're digging up some of these streets for the stormwater repair, and is that what is triggering the change in approach? But there's other streets not being dug up that follow the same formula.
Yeah, no, it's, and to add to what Jim stated, which was very accurate in terms of our approach, we do a windshield inspection of these whenever we're doing a plan. It's literally a drive-through. We make an assessment on those conditions, make a recommendation, project that forward as a holding place for that road. Annually, as we begin to evaluate the road list, we will walk each one of those roads and just do a more thorough assessment of those conditions and make our final determination. So in this case, when I further looked at it, I don't stand behind the simple overlay in this case. This road needs to escalate to a higher level treatment. And we did do core samples as well, and based on those results, We did identify conditions of cracking further through the total depth of pavement that weren't going to go away with a simple overlay treatment, so we did upgrade that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you understand my point. It's a big cost difference on a unit basis, and not as big of a difference in number of years you can expect, so. But you're the expert, so but.
It's part of our assessment, you know, we try to make the best recommendation for the long-term longevity of the street itself.
And I hadn't noticed the difference in the two, but the cold in place recycling is just about as good as we can get. So 15 would be the minimum, and it should go something longer than 15. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that is the substructure treatment of the roadway system. We're still putting a pavement overlay on that. It's a recycling process. We completely grind up the entire pavement layer and some portion of the stone layer that's there now, add new emulsion to that, replace all that material back on the roadway surface, and then we put a new top coat over top of that. So it's essentially a completely new road when we're finished.
So I get, if you just did the overlay on these roads, you're not going to get 15 years.
Yeah, so if we did an overlay in those cracks that you noticed that were sealed, they will reflect, so the term we use, it will reflect back through that top surface and then become cracks on the new pavement within probably less than 5 years. It can be a single year. I've seen that already.
Okay, good discussion. Any other questions? Proposed action?
I'll move that we authorize appropriate township staff to advertise the 2025 road paving project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion?
And what time frame? How long is the bid going to be out, and then how long are we?
This is on the same schedule that we discussed with the stormwater improvement portion of the project. We'll have a bid opening on April 14th, I think it is.
16th, I believe.
Well, 16 is your meeting, 14 is our bid opening.
I'm sorry, the bid opening, yes.
Yeah,
We'll act on it on the 16th.
you'll take action on the 16th, correct.
And then how long will they have to complete the work?
This project goes clear into the fall. I don't have the exact number of days of the contract, but in this case, because we are incorporating the extensive infrastructure improvements with the stormwater and the portion of sanitary sewer, we're going to push later into the season, probably October, before the full project is complete.
I mean, I think there's an advantage in that myself.
Yeah, I do too. It would be nice to do all the digging and replacement before we put the final pavement on it, yeah. Otherwise, we're gonna dig up new pavement.
Okay. All right,
Good.
thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Is that it for public improvements, I believe? Sanitary sewer, I don't think we have any reports or action. Administration, budget, Scott?
Listed as item 6A is the executive summary for the February budget report. In the memo, I note that the general fund expenditures of $858,000 exceeded general fund revenues of $704,000 by leaving a net February of $154,000. So the net position for general fund right now is at negative $499,000, which fits 2 out of those 3 last trending years, but pretty much fits our normal trending if you go back more years. Basically, the first 2 months, we start off as going in a negative position. In March, we'll start to see that line trend upwards, and then in April, it'll go into a positive position. As for sewer, I believe sewer is at plus $800,000 for net, and that's just mostly because most of our sewer rentals were collected in February. You'll start to see that trail off in March, and then it should follow the trending line as in previous years.
But at either fund at this point, you don't see any,
No, revenue numbers are coming in pretty much where expected for the general fund, and there's no abnormal expenses.
now we're gonna fund stuff. The drone show proposal for our anniversary celebration?
Yes, listed as item 6B is a memo from Assistant Township Manager Tim Wendling, noting that the township is looking to have a drone show for the 175th anniversary celebration, which will be held at this year's Fall Festival. In order to secure the drone show from Amazing Drone Shows LLC, we need to put down 50% of the contract amount, which is $16,250, on or before April 15th. I can allow Parks Director Krebs to speak more about what the show will actually entail, but generally that's pretty much the gist of it. Chad, do you want to go ahead and just go over what the show is actually going to be, what it'll entail, and what the draw will be?
Yep. So as Scott said, it was a discussion in the 175th committee to have the drone show. This cost is for 300 drones, and basically that'll cover techs for our platinum sponsor, the Ashcombe Mansion, and it'll also cover techs for like Upper Allen Township, the 175th anniversary, and then the show's 15 minutes, so there will be filler of kind of whatever we decide. Our plan is after the contract signed, they'll take it back to the 175th committee to get ideas, and then we'll start working with the drone show company, and they'll actually put the show together for us. The show will take place at Whiting Hill South during the Fall Fest. The viewing area will be at Whiting Hill North, so there's enough of a safety zone. I think that's pretty much it.
Fantastic. Questions? Comments?
Is there sound that goes along with this, like some kind of a soundtrack?
No, it's all, there will be a little bit of sound of the drones, but I don't think you'll hear them over at North. We can obviously play some music if we want to and talk to them and see if we can integrate something from our end.
Couldn't you have some firework booms once in a while just to?
We kind of shied away from that with going with this direction, but if you want us to set off a couple fireworks, I don't know.
No, not fireworks, no. This is a good idea not to have the fireworks.
How far along are we on our fundraising for the event? Do we know?
I believe we are over $14,500 so far, and that's only been, less than a month?
Okay.
We're aware of others coming in, but we just haven't received them.
Okay. Again, I think the commissioner should probably get together and make some level of contribution. I'd be willing to contribute 1/5 of whatever it is we decide we want to do.
All right, we can talk about that offline.
Well, my jaw dropped when I saw this. I guess I missed that meeting where maybe it was discussed. But it seems like we're taking quite a risk to sign this contract now and then hope we get funding. But, maybe we will, but a couple months ago I attended, it's also the Cumberland County anniversary, and they had a town crier and a revolutionary outfit. Very simple ceremony. We already have the lecture series. We talked to Lower Allen about what they're going to do. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I don't believe it's anything like this. We have like a model plane group that operates in Upper Allen, has a field off Kleindienst Road. There's a lot of other uses for that amount of money. And $32,000 for a 15-minute show. That's not really related, I think, to our history, is just a real extravagance to me, and it's not a value I embrace or want to see reflective of this township. It's just an extravagance, and I just don't get it. So I'm a real firm no on this.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I think this comes to us from the anniversary committee and also from Parks and Rec. Was it discussed in the Parks and Rec committee or no? This was at the anniversary committee.
Yeah,
Okay.
this was all 175th committee.
Oh, you're coming to speak. Okay, that's fine.
Jeff Williams, 334 East Meadow Drive. I do chair the Park and Recreation Advisory Board, and we've supported this idea from the start. It is the 175th anniversary. I understand concerns if This was the 171st anniversary, but this is a big deal for us. And this is a unique type of presentation that is the ongoing thing. People are moving away from fireworks into drone shows because of the environment, for number one. I've set off fireworks before personally, decades ago, and I can tell you I'm thankful I'm still here. With the drones, this is a very controllable area and something that once again puts Upper Allen Township at the forefront of public service and this type of celebration. So we support it, I support it, and I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions?
Jason Spoznik, 707 South Broad. I'm also on the Park and Rec Board. A comparable fireworks show is about $1,000 a minute, but then we have about $1,000 a minute for, so $15,000 and all kinds of upset neighbors and pets and dogs and chaos from that. You know, it does 175th is a big deal. 200 will be bigger, but I think it's, you know, it kind of shows us embracing a technology that's, you know, it's a current technology. You go to football, they got drone shows, and I think it's just a very timely thing to be doing, and just hope you guys agree and pass this through. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't think we yet have a motion on the floor, so if there are no more questions, is there proposed action?
I'll move that we authorize appropriate township officials to enter into a professional service agreement with Amazing Drone Shows LLC for $32,500 for the 175th anniversary drone show.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved in second. Any discussion? I failed to ask. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that one of the attractions to Ashcomb's Platinum sponsorship was when they realized their logo would be included with the show. So that was a big attract, you know, for them to donate $10,000. I think that was reflected in a large part based on what they would get out of it, including this drone presentation. So for what it's worth, I think that was something that attracted big donors.
Oh, thank you, Phil. And we do have a platinum sponsor already, and thanks to Phil. He's the person that visited the concern and made the ask, so we'll send you out some more. No, but in all seriousness, thanks for doing that, Phil. I should have asked you, Steve, but I'm assuming that you've looked over the agreement and...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I made revisions that they accepted.
Oh, okay, so that's, got that then. Any other discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
Motion carried 4-1. Okay, then the escalator clause, Scott, you want to address that? We've done this before, but go ahead.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I think this is the third year that we've introduced an escalator provision in our annual roadway improvement project. Our contract specifications reference the PennDOT 408. The 408 allows the escalator provision to take effect when you have 100 liquid tons of asphalt emulsion, which is an extremely high amount. We present the resolution to basically waive that limit and allow it to apply for any level below 100 liquid tons of emulsion. In simplest terms, this allows the contractor to place a bid at current prices. If those prices go up by 10%, we honor that price. If they go down by 10%, when the material is applied, we then honor that lower amount as well. It allows for flexibility and allows all contractors to place a competitive bid at current pricing without overestimating.
Anticipating.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, thanks. And it takes, I think we're going to get a better bid up front because everybody will be bidding on the same structure.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, that's it, that's the thought. Other questions or discussion on this? Yes. Any comments from the audience on this? If not,
I just had
go ahead, Eric.
a question. I mean,
Sure.
there was like a PennDOT publication you referenced that was published in 2020. I looked at that, I saw the escalator clause, but then there's like annual revisions each year. So the text I was looking at, that the escalator part hasn't changed in the 5 years or so since the publication's been out.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, municipal services, in order to honor that adjustment, they require us to annually adopt a new resolution. So that's why it continues to come back before
Right, I
you each
remember
year.
it, I guess, last year. That's,
Okay. Other questions, discussion to proposed action?
I'll move that we authorize Resolution 1108 for the escalator clause for bituminous material.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. I believe then we go to the proposed renaming of Center Square Park.
Yes, listed as item 7B is a memo from Tim Wendling, Assistant Township Manager, recommending for Center Square Park to be renamed to Trout Run Park. In his memo, he notes that the Park and Recreation Board has already discussed this and recommends the change. Specifically, it's important for the township to have a unique and identifiable names, reducing confusion among residents and visitors while enhancing distinctiveness of our park systems. As you may be aware, there is another Center Square Park in an adjacent municipality. And we are starting to do more work with Trout Run, and it kind of fits that working there. So that's the reason for the request.
Okay. Are there comments or questions about the?
Yeah, I think this will tie in nicely with the proposed Trout Run Historic District signage, just another way of identifying that area. So I think it's a good idea.
All right. Other comments or proposed action?
I author,
You got to vote on it, Phil.
I move to authorize the official name change of Center Square Park to Trout Run Park effective immediately.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any comments from the audience? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Thank you. Listed as item 7C is a resolution related to Yellow Breach's accessible kayak launches, as well as a request for permission to proceed with these. Essentially, as I mentioned this morning at the Public Improvements meeting, as a little bit of background, the township received a grant of $100,000 from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources through Representative Thomas Kutz's office. We did not actually apply for this grant. I believe the original conversation occurred related to increasing access to the Yellow Breaches as related to the old Lot 5 at Generations Park. During this morning's meetings, we did have a conversation or a question related to reaching out to Lower Allen Township and seeing if they would be interested in any kind of site, potentially moving one of the docks to this site over in, I believe it's their community park, and then having the other dock be at Simpson Park just to elongate the ride. I did reach out to Lower Allen today. I did not receive a response back. I will need to follow up on that. But essentially, that would kind of need, depending on what the board would like to do, that would need to wait a little longer then, so we could table this or move forward from there, just to get their input. One of the things I had talked with Chad about was that, the beauty of this project is, and these features is, they can be pulled out and put back in and things like that, and put different places. So, if there's a popularity with that at Lower Allen, or if that's the way the board wants to go, then we can look to expand to other sites. We can also look to put down maybe if we ever are able to get some space down off of Gettysburg Pike down towards the old Rose Garden area, they can go down there. So not to say that I'm not looking to go forward, I'm just letting you know of the information I've collected during the day. So both this is the first one is a memo from the Assistant Township Manager. Basically, this is a resolution saying that we would like to accept the grant that we've been offered. This one does specifically state the locations. We can check on that and see if we can change it so it doesn't have to set the exact locations, but it allows essentially staff to proceed with getting, ordering these things and getting them designed up. The second memo, though, is more of a proceed like, hey, can we go purchase this? The problem is we've reached a point where we need to spend money to do some design work, to do some further activity, and we didn't want to do that without the permission from the board. Like I said, there's still some things that I need to tie up for information. Happy to do that. So, I'm not looking, I think this is a good time to collect some information for the board, and then maybe we can, if it's the board's will, just push it back to the next meeting, and then we can have some follow-up information and close this out for you, or you can go forward, whatever you decide you'd like to do.
Yeah, thank you. I think...
Chad, did I miss anything real quick? Sorry about that.
Unless you want me to go over the project itself.
Say what?
Yeah. The project itself, what we're originally looking at is there's a picture of it. The actual kayak launches are about 14 by 16 foot that sit in the water, and then they're anchored to the bank with the ramp leading up to it. So there is a small excavation to put the concrete block in to hold it. The original proposed areas at McCormick and Simpson would create about 1.5 mile float between the two. In preceding this, we did talk to DEP and Fish and Boat, and they're both on board with us doing something. So Board Safe is the recommended contractor. We found that out through the grant and through Fish and Boat. They were both pleased to use that. They have engineers on staff to make sure these things stay where they are and they're stable. I think that's pretty much it.
Do you know, how long is the float from between those two spots?
24 minutes.
So when we looked into it, as Phil said, it's anywhere from 20 to 45, depending on the person's ability to, and obviously the creek flow.
And you didn't take the other run this afternoon, huh? Okay.
It was a good day for it.
No, I was just wondering what the float would be from McCormick, or restated from Simpson to Lower Allen. That would probably add, Eric, you thought another hour maybe, but
I think it's more than that from what I
So,
heard.
yeah, I took some time and kind of went through the internet. There's a few Facebook groups specific to yellow breeches, kayaking, tubing, whatever, fishing. Just, all of 10 minutes on the internet. So the float time from McCormick Park to Lower Allen is between 3.5 and 4 hours, according to this website. Now, that's in an inner tube. Wow. So there's no paddling, there's no energy exerted there. It's just floating down the creek to the winds and bends. The other thing I should note is I had the opportunity to speak with a gentleman from the Susquehanna chapter of the Team River Runner organization. This is a group, a national organization that promotes and offers adaptive paddling programs. So it's specific to exactly this type of thing. It was a great conversation. I let him go for 20 minutes without, just let him give his pitch, very enthusiastic. They're very active in this area, had a lot to say. Now, I will say that two of the things that stuck with me from that conversation was that he felt that 30 minutes, so I'm just using 30 minutes to make the math easier. 30 minutes was almost too short, but that a 3.5 to 4.0 hour trip would be, as he said, pretty normal. So with regard to what he sees from his perspective as somebody leading these trips, that's pretty normal, the 3.5 to 4 hours. I think that would be so I have some other thoughts aside from that specifically with regards to the structures in the creek. But I think the win-win here is really to pursue the discussion with Lower Allen, if we're going to go ahead with this, to see if it's something they team up with us on. And so I would like to, I would prefer that we table this until we get some more information. I should say that, living right there at McCormick Park and just looking at that creek out my front window, since we've been here in the last 25 years, it's on average, every other year, we're getting flooding that comes up over the road. Sometimes there's a couple in one year, and then there might not be some for a couple of years, whatever, regardless. With this microburst that we had recently, it was even more pronounced, although it didn't come up as high as some of the other floods. The channel flow that you see down there is ripping. It's not just pushing branches along. It's entire trees that it's capable of pushing these things down there. We've got a substantial, fairly large piece of engineering protruding out into the creek. And I didn't think to ask when you were going through this. You said you gave me the dimensions. How much of that actually is from the bank out into the creek? So there's going to be some that's up the bank, I would presume. Do you know how much of it actually goes out into the creek?
So they go off the water level. They want the part that the kayak actually sits in, I think 12 inches in the water. So it may vary where it's put, but anywhere from right against the bank to maybe 5 feet out in. So at the most, it would be 20 feet out into the water, to the end point.
Up to 20 feet out into the Yellow Breeches Creek. Okay. Yeah, and so I also touch bases with the neighbors. I try to keep them informed of things going on down there, the one-way project, what have you. I think I've had 5 responses now. They're not real thrilled with this for a number of reasons, not the least of which is aesthetics. Now, first of all, I want you to be aware that I'm thrilled for any opportunity to help out with any kind of ADA accessibility issues, particularly with an adaptive paddling program. I think is a wonderful idea. This is located within a historic district, although the township doesn't necessarily have to comply with anything with regards to that. It is part of the aesthetic of that area. So, I mean, there's a number of different things at play here. I think these are susceptible. Most of the ones that I'm aware of, and in fact, this individual from the Team River Runners was also his opinion that most of these things are on lakes. I suspect that's for a reason. I think these are going to be susceptible to damage from flooding. But that aside, if we were to go forward with it, it makes sense to me to optimize the people most in need of this kind of a resource, those being the ones, the more normal scenarios, which being the longer trips. I would suggest that we consider pursuing the discussion with Lower Allen if in fact they're willing to do that. So in light of that, I don't want to go on, but I think if we could just table this until we get some more information, I think that would be an advisable thing to do.
Well, so you're in favor of it if it goes from Simpson Park to Lower Allen, but not in favor if it goes to McCormick Park?
I want to be in favor of it. I really want to be in favor of anything that promotes an adaptive paddling program. I don't think these are appropriate for the Yellow Breeches Creek. I think they're going to be susceptible to flooding damage. All right, put that aside for a second. I would be willing to go along with it if the board really wants to pursue this, if it were from Simpson to Lower Allen, keeping in mind that there could well be damage or worse down the road. And we should need to be aware of potential liability issues as well, kids playing around.
So before we take action, and I think your suggestion was to table, but before we do that, I do want to give opportunity. We had one resident come in late that wanted, Carrie Hockenberry, do you want to address the board? I want to give you an opportunity to at least address the board.
Well, and we had Tanya speak earlier on it.
Right.
Out of order, but.
And I would suggest, Alexis, that maybe you can take that comment from Tanya and put it in this section of the minutes. Okay, hi, give us your name and address.
Kara Cockenberry, 2840 Allen Glen Drive. My property borders McCormick Road and the park. I'm right down from Phil. So my concerns were some of what Phil already discussed. Like, I'm on board with ADA stuff. I think it's really good. The time of the float is that 20 to 25 minute range by a kayak, which seems somewhat short. The other thing that concerns me is ADA compliance is 1 inch of vertical drop per 12 inches of ramp. And I went down and measured it today. It's 52 inches from the road down to the water. So even if the dock at the bottom comes up a foot off the water, you're talking 50 feet of ramp. Does anybody, that's what I've kind of that's what I found.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of ramp.
Agreed.
And I don't know how that extends out into the creek, so that would be my main concern. The flooding that he discussed, I see that, and it is about every other year. It comes well up into my yard. I haven't seen the flooding at Simpson or Lower Allen Park, so I can't really speak to that. I know Simpson is much flatter coming from the parking lot down there, so that's an obviously easier entry. Lower Allen Park does have the boat ramp there, so that would be my thought.
And I might say, even if we were to consider Lower Allen, I'm curious if there's anything from our McCormick Park to Lower Allen that would be even, have we looked at other potential landing spots? I don't know, but.
Yeah, I think the problem is going to be the height of the bank and height of the road to the height of the creek.
Yeah, so we preliminarily looked at both sites, and part of the permit with DEP would actually do a small proposed grade change, so we're not going from the height currently. We would ramp it down a little bit in the grass area before it got to the ramp.
Okay, so you're at least aware of the concern that there's going to be a fairly big elevation change. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You know, and the reason I made the suggestion I did, I mean, I'm not an engineer and I don't know McCormick as well as people that own property next to it. I'm really fascinated by this idea that we give people with disabilities, whether they're mobility issues or sensory issues, or maybe they're just aging like Tanya and me, but, to be able to get into the water and enjoy it. I mean, I think that's a goal that I really embrace, and I heard you say that too, Phil. So for me, if we can find suitable locations to land these things, I'm all for it. Whether I'm not prepared to strongly advocate where that should be, but yeah.
Yeah, after our meeting this morning, I went back and spoke with a couple of friends, my wife, the Women's Club, who happened to be over at Messiah Village, one of which is a double amputee, and asked about, at their age, what would they like to do, and in all honesty, they weren't enthusiastic about a 3-hour float. It was just too much for them. They preferred a smaller float, and if they have extra time, they go back and do it a second time, but just the ability to get down in the water was important to them, because the double amputee, she's in her 80s, still drives her own car.
Wow.
And she does a lot of things, but she can't get into the water. So that was important to her. And she just did feel that particularly, you can't get out of the kayak until you get to the other point. And if you're on a 2.5-hour float and you need to get out for some reason in an hour, you're really stuck. So that was research I did.
Other comments?
Scott, when you're also researching, when you're also researching, can you find out the maintenance of these, for 15 years? I don't want to, I don't want to put something in that we're dumping $100,000 every year either, and just to maintain them.
Mm-hmm. And with that, I'd ask Phil. I'm sorry. I'll give you a chance. But I don't have a long memory. I got to think about this. I mentioned to Phil, I don't know if there is a way to powder coat this, or is there a way to make it less aluminum looking and more in concert with the creek and natural vegetation? You know, you don't have to answer that now, but I would suggest you look at that as well, because I'm sympathetic to that. Eric, you wanted to speak 2 times. I apologize.
No one's against, I think, handicapped people. There's different forms of handicap. Some you can't even tell, but I don't understand the concept of putting this. I mean, I was taught from an early age how dangerous the yellow breeches is, with these pockets that can get you. And I've known any number of kids over the years that have been killed on the yellow breeches. There was one last year that got in it near the Sheepford Road Bridge after a big storm. I don't know why. He was like a 10-year-old boy, got trapped in debris. There's any number of things that can hit you and knock you down and whatever. So I don't understand why we would invite kind of that liability or this kind of attractive nuisance that way. Why people, you know, I don't know. I can understand it on, like at Pinchot Park on still water, but in moving water, especially the yellow breeches, you know, that goes up and down a lot. I don't understand it. So
one thing I can add too is that the grant is for $100,000 to improve access to the yellow breeches. If the board has any suggestions on a project that they would more like to see, and you guys can come to some kind of consensus, I'm happy to pursue those as well.
Okay, thank you. What is our timing in terms of, you know, it's not every day that you have a representative that offers $100,000, and so I think we need to be appreciative and respectful of that. But is it your sense that we would have?
This doesn't run like a normal grant program.
So
So there's not like a 3-year thing.
Okay.
It's till it gets reprogrammed.
Okay.
We received contact last year in 2024. We contacted them again last week just to make sure it was still available. It is still available, and I think they're just looking for us to go ahead and put a project in so we can move forward.
Okay, thank you, because I didn't want to be up against the timeline. Okay? What's the wish of the board?
I think you have one more.
I'm sorry.
If you would like to speak. Yeah.
Judy Bailey, 450 East Lisburn Road. Couple things. One, I'm not hearing that the historic district was consulted, since this is in the historic district. 2, I have the reputation for being the oldest tuber on the Yellow Breeches. I grew up there. I spent my childhood in the Yellow Breeches. And I agree with the danger of it, and going through the bridge, Mr. Hollinger's bridge is dangerous. I've taken all my grandchildren, taught lots of children to go down through the creek there, and it's dangerous. I love the idea that the grant is not specific to having this. I mean, I realize you're going to get a lot more information, but there certainly is a need for development of access to the Yellow Breeches on that area, and Representative Kutz recognizes that and is trying to make that available. On the actual grant, though, has it been granted to him for this, or is this he's applying to DCNR?
This was a budget allotment. It already exists. It was in the last year's budget, $100,000.
And it was not pre-permitted before?
The permit
permits are the next stage?
It's permitted for $100,000 for access to the Yellow Breeches Creek. Prior to you arriving, I mentioned that it was originally probably a part of our discussion to adding access to Lot 5 for Generations Park.
Oh, but this actual structure hasn't been pre-permitted with
No,
Fish
the
and
action
Wildlife and
tonight would
Army Corps of
require a
Engineers.
resolution, and I don't believe we would need Army Corps of Engineers for this. So that would not be true, but
Well,
this has not been permitted through the, not been permitted yet, no.
I'm just thinking from experience with working on the streams, that when you have a lot of debris going down, it just gets very expensive to put them in, because you have to build a dike around where the area you're working to
This
have
was,
that cloud. They don't want that going down the stream.
Sure. This idea didn't just
That's
come
all.
out of like nowhere. We did go talk to Fish and Boat. That we received this recommendation from them. Like I said to the board just now, you know, if there's other suggestions or other projects that people would like to see, we're happy to pursue that. This is just the one that came up first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Go ahead.
Jason Spoznik, 707 South Broad. We've discussed this in Parks and Rec a few times. We talked about the grading required to bring it down so that the ramp's not, 3/4 of a mile long to get out to the river. And then the concern about the historic area, that makes a lot of sense, and I talked to Chad before the meeting that maybe he could go to Board Safe and see if they have a way to give it an appearance that would be more suitable to that area. But just while everyone was talking, I was looking at Board Safe, their website, and they state that they designed their docks in a way that adapts to tidal basins, marshes, and harbors. They're built for stability, changing downstream currents, rise and fall of rivers due to droughts, flooding, and other common fluctuations, and have survived hurricane forces. So it sounds like we're going with the right vendor. And the 20-minute float time, if we're providing an opportunity to people that can't float at all right now. So a 20-minute float time is probably sufficient. I think in addition to McCormick and Simpson, if Lower Allen gets on board, that's just another, we can be trend setting here, and some of the other municipalities down the river can jump on board, and then people have options instead of, well, it's either an hour and a half or, if you don't have that kind of time, you're not going at all. So it's a good opportunity, and there can be, through Mechanicsburg Rec, there can be a class for kayaking, for, accessibility kayaking class, where a 20-minute session for like an hour class is plenty of time to float and then get on back and go on with the rest of your day instead of a full day commitment. But again, with a lot of before Parks and Rec recommended this to the board, a lot of these concerns were addressed, and we felt that we put together the best possible thing for the community.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I was just wondering, did you consider any other options for the use of that money?
No, what was brought to us was an accessible kayaking. That's how it was presented to the Parks and Rec board, was an accessible launch. First it was one, and then it didn't make sense to have one because you can't swim in a circle in the yellow breeches. So in and out. But yeah, we always kind of had it with accessibility in mind, because that's pretty much I've been on the Parks and Rec board for 7 years, and all the playground equipment, Generations Park, everything we do for recreation in the community, we think about accessibility. So it was just, you don't have to have a mobility issue to use these launch ramps. Right. Able-bodied people can use it just fine. It's an added benefit of having the accessibility feature.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Jeff Williams, 334 East Meadow Drive. He's right. We discussed this quite a bit at the Park and Rec Advisory Board. We have a chance for something. The first thing I would say is, do not assume that people with a mobility issue are weak somehow. We have folks that have no problem at all getting around and making do in life, and would have no problem at all and enjoy being in a kayak or a canoe. It's also an excellent point that these piers would be able to be used by people that are able-bodied. Something else to consider, I think the Lower Allen piece is something really that needs to be looked at. That adds an extended float. The short float is good for many folks, like Jason just said. The longer float would be available. And here's a thought. I have not seen the boat launch that's already there at Community Park in Lower Allen. If it is solid surface, concrete or asphalt, you can take a wheelchair down into the water, all the way up to the handles, and take somebody out, even though they don't have a specialized pier like we would. So that's already there, if that exists. I have not seen it. I didn't have a chance to go today, I did not have a note from my wife, so I couldn't go. This is something that we strongly support. Everybody should have access to our natural resources. An historic district, this is a low-profile thing, folks. It's low to the water. It can float up to 8 feet in flood. If Fish and Boat supports this, these people are the pros. These people know how these things work. And so I, once again, along with Jason, the Park and Rec Board supports this. And if we went through with this, we'd have 3 access points and 3 takeout points for folks to utilize what is just a beautiful creek. It's just wonderful down there. But we get folks down there that normally can't get out on the water. So we support it strongly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, sir.
you said something that astounds me.
Good.
With all your connections, and I think I heard it from Chad this morning, you don't know what they have at Lower Allen.
I have not been there.
You've been there?
I have not been there, as I
That's
said.
what I don't get. I mean, that is within
If
a half
they-
mile of the Generations Park. There's fabulous, ways to connect the park. You don't
Generations
want-
Park, this is the creek. What?
No, the front entrance of Generations Park is within a half mile of the front
Right.
entrance of Lower Allen Community Park.
Not within a mile.
And I just assumed in my mind, everybody had looked at it. I
Well,
mean,
I've been to.
It is something, something to investigate, because it would be, as we discussed several times tonight, something that can be investigated, that work with Lower Allen. We have.
Right, no, that's encouraging. I just really surprised.
Commissioner Anderson for years has worked on trying to get more access to the creek.
So they have, it's like a concrete thing that goes into the creek. I thought it was really one of the few, like Fish and Boat approved.
It's
boat
concrete?
launches.
That's
Yeah,
perfect.
It's concrete.
That answers my question.
It's a boat launch.
Yeah, we had that in Silver Spring.
Right.
And I have seen people with wheelchairs down there taking people out of, actually, in that case, was a canoe. So,
But I think the question that was suggested tonight is if that becomes an official landing spot as part of, in conjunction with our portion of the creek. So I think Scott has started, and I would certainly recommend that he continue to be in communication with Lower Allen. We can't assume that they are going to participate or interested, but.
no, but if it's concrete, it's public, people can go down there and take out. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
I would like to just make a note that this is, as I said, it's a fairly large piece of engineering, protruding up to 20 feet out into the creek. So I would take exception to your suggestion that this is somehow low profile.
okay.
That was it.
As I'm hearing the board, I think we can either take proposed action, or if tabled, to get more information for a later date. I personally, I really want to help people with mobility issues, because there are people that appear able-bodied, like myself, who had surgery within the last year, and you appear able-bodied, but I'm not. So, I mean, I'm still in recuperation, and there's many people that could use this even though they aren't labeled disabled. So I think it would be a positive, and then to get it somewhere, I think would be very supportive. But exactly where it should be or how many, the other thing I'm concerned about is that even though we don't have a deadline, when we have Representative Kutz make money like this available, to reject it or snob it, I think is not going to do us well in the future. So again, I'm not proposing the fix, but I just think we ought to keep working on it so that we can take advantage of that money. Okay, what's the will of the board? I will entertain a motion for action or entertain a motion to table.
I'd like to move to table it for now until we get more information.
To what date?
Whatever, Scott, I would think 30 days or something, I don't know.
Or 60?
Or 60.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you I'd have information in 2 weeks. I guess you can't leave these open-ended, can you?
The motion to table should have a date certain.
Doesn't have to, but it's good.
If the board is willing, could I do 60 days with a notification when I have extra information and maybe come back earlier?
Or keep us informed as you get information.
If that's okay with everybody else, my plan would be to contact Lower Allen first. I also feel that we can poll the board again, see if there's any other ideas that you'd like us to pursue. And the other big one is I will get a firm answer on how long the money is being held. And once we have that, then we can know if we're against a wall or not. And then the board can decide how it wants to move forward.
So we have a motion. Do you want to amend that to table for 60 days?
For 60 days?
Okay.
Yeah, if that works for you.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. There's no discussion on table. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
Motion carried 4-1. Okay. I believe that's all under Park and Rec. Moving then to miscellaneous. Any update from the solicitor? John?
Yes, Steve asked me to give the solicitor a report this evening. It is Sunshine Week this week, and the Office of Open Records has issued its annual report. I reviewed that yesterday. There's been about, statewide, there's 3,200 right-to-know law appeals each year that's adjudicated by the Office of Open Records, and almost 2,500 of those are for local agencies like the township. And just in speaking with my colleagues around the state, I realize that there's a lot of municipalities that spend tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars on right-to-know requests in a year on legal fees. And I think that the staff here should be commended because there has not been extensive legal battles on right-to-know requests in Upper Allen Township as long as Steve's been the solicitor for the township. I don't think we've ever had an appeal that's escalated as far as the Court of Common Pleas in Upper Allen Township. I work very closely with township staff to be very up to date on right-to-know law issues and to try to timely respond to right-to-know law requests, not to drag them out for the sake of dragging them out. And that's all I really have to say about the annual report. The Office of Open Records did issue a new requester form this year, so the township has updated that. And just another thing I wanted to mention is that based on the experience I have with the right-to-know law and the Sunshine Act, I've been asked to testify before the state Senate next week regarding potential amendments to the right-to-know law and potential amendments to the Sunshine Act. There is a concern that public officials are using instant messaging apps such as Signal that immediately delete messages. And there's concerns by state legislators that those apps are being used to basically deliberate business in violation of the Sunshine Act, and then it's immediately deleted and there's no public record. So they're having a public hearing on that on Monday, and I've been asked to testify on that. That's all that I have.
Thank you. And what was that social media thing, Signal?
Signal.
It shows how up to date I am. Did you know that exists? I never heard of it. Anyway, thanks, Josh. Tax Collection Committee, okay. Capital Region COG, we did approve, the COG approved the joint bid results at our meeting on Monday, and so you're, okay, so, and I mentioned.
We already
this-
scheduled blind bidding.
Thank you. And so I mentioned to Corey, but Upper Allen is going to host a COG training in April on, I think, heavy equipment and grading, and they're just ecstatic with the cooperation. They gave kudos to Corey and his participation and cooperation with COG activities. They even mentioned you on the side, Scott, that you've been participating in the managers' meetings, and the comment was made, wow, you really have a good manager over there, so.
Yeah, we do host.
$2 will get you a cup of coffee.
Yeah, thanks for that. We do host a lot of trainings here, and the benefit to that is we do end up actually sometimes getting a few people in at lower cost for us, things of that nature. Also, we lose less time when we have this facility and we utilize it, and it's worked out really well. It's something we shied away from for years, and I'm glad we're doing it now.
Thank you for doing that. MAB, I don't think they met at the COG meeting. Commissioner Eichelberger mentioned that MAB meets quarterly. I didn't challenge him in public, but I think he intimated that there is one forthcoming here in the next quarter. Pennsylvania State Association, I'm not aware that we have any reports or updates. Anything, comments from public? Jeff?
Jeff Williams, still at 334 East Meadow. Last night, my wife and I had the true pleasure of attending the Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society's annual awards banquet at their annual conference. And we were excited to see that Mr. Krebs, our Parks Director, and Mr. Mara, our Assistant Parks Director, and the township received the award for Recreation Excellence. I have never submitted an award submission like I was so confident that we would get. And this was for the sensory garden. And I will tell you this morning when I posted their photograph, hopefully to their embarrassment, that within 10 minutes I had 11 responses from 5 different states, friends of mine, some of the Recreation and Parks Directors. I will also say that it's neat to get awards and do something that makes a difference to the community, particularly for those folks, those kids on the spectrum. But when other professionals come up to you afterwards and they're asking about it and they're impressed by it, even from, and particularly from other states, that made me feel wonderful. And we have an outstanding staff, as we say over and over again, and I will beat that drum till it breaks. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, and thanks for posting that today. I saw it earlier, and make sure that, well, you're here, make sure Eddie knows that his work is appreciated. Thank you. Anyone else? Sir.
Kara Cockenberry, 2840 Allen Glen Drive. I wanted to thank you guys for putting these videos online, because even though I cannot make it here very often, I'm a fresh face, I do watch all the videos online, so I do appreciate that. And I like the mics now, because I always had trouble with the sound quality, but now it's a lot better.
Thanks for that feedback.
So I do appreciate that, because I listen in my car, I play it when I'm driving back and forth to work, and so I can't watch anything else.
I hope you don't wreck. I hope.
No, I don't. That's why I just put it on the audio. I don't watch what you guys look like or anything, but I just listen to the audio.
You're better off not looking what we look like.
Any chance?
Seriously, thanks for that feedback.
No, it's really
we
good.
periodically get it, but we just started doing that this year.
It's really good. Like I watch them all. The Parks and Rec meetings, I mean, is there any chance that those will ever be?
Yes, they're going to start.
Okay, awesome.
This month, I believe, right?
I have 4 kids, and it's really tough for me to get to these meetings.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask is.
And we're looking at Planning Commission also.
Really, that'd be awesome. I do appreciate that. McCormick Park, so living right along McCormick Park.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's been a topic for a long time as far as some of the stuff that goes on down there. And while I'm here, I just want to let you know, like, one of my big complaints is that every year there's numerous people using my yard as a bathroom. And I figure it out because I'm down there mowing and I find toilet paper all through my yard. I've contacted the cops a couple times, but I know there's not much you guys can do. So you guys have come down. I try not to waste your time too much, but every once in a while it gets to me. So I think I've lived there almost 7 years. I think they've been down there probably 3 or 4 times, but just know that every year it is probably 10 to 15 times that I find toilet paper in my yard.
Mm-hmm.
So anything we can do to start to clean that up would be appreciated.
We have a couple of issues. One is when people are on the water, we have no jurisdiction.
Yep, totally get that.
And we have no control over who floats down the stream. And unfortunately, we have some people that have little or no regard for other people's private property.
Yeah.
And they're floating down the stream, typically intoxicated, and causing all sorts of mayhem along the way.
Yeah, the other two things I'll bring up about the park is, one, I think it is a dusk to dawn park, is that correct?
No, Parks in the Township are
Yes. There are constantly people down there at night, like parked, coming through, flashing their lights, like communicating with each other. So I'm not sure what that entails, but I see it out my bedroom window every single night. There's numerous cars down there. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the fact that there's picnic tables down there and there's no trash cans really bugs me. And the only reason that that park is clean is not because of the people that use it. It's because some nice walkers pick up on it on a daily basis down there.
So my recollection, correct me if I'm wrong, is we had trash cans, and they filled up, and then people started piling stuff alongside of them, and a lot of it could not have been from people eating at the park. It was people were bringing their trash in and putting them in our trash cans and using that instead of their own garbage disposal or waste disposals at home. And I think that was why we took them out. Do we put them back in the summer?
No, it's been over 10 years, so prior to your living there. And my recollection, and I'll have to look for pictures, but the garbage cans were buried so deep in the garbage because of illegal dumping, tires, concrete, contractor garbage, all sorts of things. And this was every week. And so we took them out, and that stuff stopped. So I do recognize that the inconvenience of bringing in that kind of garbage, there still being garbage there from that. But quite frankly, the amount of illegal dumping has gone to almost zero for us. I recognize, though, you guys are doing a lot of cleaning. I have no doubt about that.
Totally understand that.
But I understand your complaint. I do.
The bigger deal for me is, why put picnic tables there then? That is what I would ask. And then I know that there's been a lot of discussion on making some changes down there, and it seems to me like trying to come up with a full plan that's going to fix everything is not going to happen. So why not institute a couple small things that kind of make sense and say, because some stuff's going to work and some stuff you're probably going to go, you know what, that wasn't a good idea, and you can change it back. But the inaction, for me, get rid of picnic tables, get rid of grills. The people that I think use my property as a bathroom, I think, are the families that come down there all day, have their grill, sit up there for 6-7 hours, have kids. Where else are they going to go? So if you can start to allow the park to be used, I'm not against that, but the people that congregate there all day seem to me the ones that accumulate a lot of trash, the ones that are using the bathrooms, and causing, from my perspective, a lot of the problems down there. So I would just my point would be, let's start to try to make some small decisions instead of trying to overhaul a whole plan and waiting for that overhaul. Thank you.
Yeah. Can anybody say when the picnic tables went in? They were not always there either.
No. 2 or 3 years ago. Use the microphone, please.
Yeah, we're at about 2 or 3 years now.
2 or 3 years. Okay.
I'll just briefly, Judy Bailey, 450 East Lisburn Road. I'm one of the people that picks up the trash every day. I walk every day along the creek or on Pennington with my garbage bags, with my partner, and I pick up the cement blocks, and I pick up the batteries, and I pick up the rubber rafts and the trash that's been along there. I go back and get my truck, and I fill my truck up with all the garbage that's left down there. And it seems as Upper Allen does a great job with their parks, their other parks. I mean, there's no criticism could be had. But McCormick is just not thought through yet. And maybe it's coming. Maybe that's what needs to happen, is some planning for bathrooms, trash pickup, surface the road there.
So we have
We've work to do.
We've put forth some ideas in the past. I think there's one still hanging to change some of the structure of the park down there. I don't know how we'd put in it'd have to be porta potties. There'd be no way to put a bathroom down there. And we hear that a ramp is not appropriate in a historic district, but I'm imagining a porta potty wouldn't be either.
Well, Phil gets them in his front yard because when people come down, and he won't tell you that, but when people come down, they put their portable potty in his front yard. And that's not something we want to encourage.
No.
He won't complain about it, but I'll tell you.
I don't think we do encourage it. I'm just not sure what we can do to prevent it.
Yeah.
If somebody shows up and puts something in your front yard,
I'm
call the
not
police.
complaining, I'm putting something on the table. It's something, to work on. It's not a criticism per se, but it's an assessment that there's a need. I don't have solutions other than compost toilets, even a sign that says no littering so that it could be enforced. I don't know how enforcement goes with the police, and I don't want to give the police any more work. And the police do have a nice presence down there in the summertime, but maybe they need some more authority.
But that's
Something,
interesting, that's an interesting question of what authority do we have in terms of trash disposal or that, so we can have the police look at that. I don't know if you want to comment on that offhand, Andy, but you can.
Yes. It's important that everyone knows that reporting things right away. So if you would see people in the parks flashing their lights, give us a call. Non-emergency number or emergency number, doesn't matter. It's important for us to know right away when it's occurring so we can get there, determine what it is that's going on, who's involved, do we have a violation, and all that's recorded. And even if somebody gets a warning, if they're found down there again doing the same thing after a warning, if it's an ordinance violation, they can be cited. And the officer handling the second call can see that they've been warned. So I would encourage you just to call whenever you see anything happening at the parks. We check them regularly. We do find people in violation, doing things they shouldn't be doing. So that's my overall message.
It's occurred to me too to have like a Friends of McCormick Park too, maybe people that walk along there that have it, even if they don't have an authority to tell somebody what to do something, but if someone's patrolling, it's going to be less likely to have trash left or get it sooner or call you if there's a problem.
Well, we've certainly had our share of calls over the years related to parks around the summertime when they get crowded. A lot of intoxication. We've had some serious assaults, other things that are definitely disturbing. So we're interested in anything that goes on at our parks.
Sure you are. You're very good. Thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like an update. I'm not sure whether it's from Phil or from Eric. Are we making any progress with wrought iron works? I know we've got 90 days, but I don't want to wait till the last minute to find out that we've got something or we've got nothing. Is there someone that could give us an update, maybe every meeting to know, so we know what's going on?
I did just get an email.
Okay.
So
Time.
I'll tell you, rather than tie you up looking for it, why don't I forward you the information I got, and I can.
Oh, that's-
well, it's information.
sure.
Include the whole board
Yeah.
and staff as well.
So,
Okay.
in the meantime, on my own time, Eric was good enough to forward to me a website for box steel. And I printed down the information and did some more research and spent about half an hour, 40 minutes on the phone with Nels.
I'm sorry, is it Box or Fox?
B-A-C-H, Bach.
Oh, Bach.
A colorful guy. And it took us a couple voicemails to finally hook up. But I've got just they appear to me to be a much more substantial company than what we're dealing with. And I asked him, because I've heard that PennDOT is miserable to work with. Their standards are hard, and he said every state has different standards, and he's done some work in Beaver County and didn't find PennDOT particularly far out from the rest of them. They just have their own unique things, and each of the states tends to have that. He said it's something you have to know, and when you're in this business, you're going to, as you deal with different states, and his book of business that he lists was much more substantial. It was interesting that the average project cost for him is about $185,000. So when I asked him about why wouldn't he have responded to our RFP, he indicated he wasn't aware of it, that no one made him aware. He never received it, and could he respond now? I said, no, we're beyond that now. But And he asked who did respond, and I told him, and he said, "Oh, you're dealing with Art." And I'm not going to relay all the conversation in a public meeting that he had, but apparently Art has 4 disassembled bridges laying on his property at this time. And Nels is concerned that they're just laying there rusting, and that they would have been better to be left standing up than to be rusting at this time. So I think we need to stay on top of Art, because he said Art doesn't do any of the work at all. It's done by his partner, and he said his experience is Art's biggest concern is making sure he doesn't have to put any money into anything, that everything's financed up front. So that's what I've been able to learn from these guys. Again, thank you for giving me the lead.
You've been in communication with them?
No, but I've had that
But you know-
information
oh,
for a
okay,
while. I
good.
thought we had contacted him, because I was leery all along, Jim, just trying to deal with only
Yeah,
one firm.
yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah.
desperately
Maybe
find
that's
some
something,
other
Phil, you wanna reach
people in
out
that
to.
industry.
And that's-
So,
My
thank you.
understanding is that once Art gets through this process with the PennDOT, it would then go out to bid. Could we then make sure that Bob Steele is included in the solicitation for bids?
That wasn't my impression. My impression was he was going to come back to us. We've been out to bid, we have an open bid, and we have a response that we didn't feel was a qualified bid, that we were going to give him a chance to cure his deficiencies, but I didn't think we were going back out for another bid.
I thought it was we were going to a one-step process, and that would.
We were asking him for a quote for a
Okay.
one-step process, but
But we also wanted him to have PennDOT approval and/or a pathway, as I understood it, to be able to rehabilitate the bridge for vehicular use. Yeah.
right, it was a one-step process and giving us a bridge that would meet PennDOT vehicular requirements,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
That's what we
understand
talked
that.
about.
For some reason, I had it in my mind that it would then go out to bid under the new design parameters.
That's not what I voted for. If that's,
Well, no,
that's
no,
where we were
no.
going,
If I'm wrong,
I'd like to
that's
vote
fine.
again
I
right away.
thought we were going to cross that bridge, come around May 1st or something.
Well,
We would have more.
we have a
and
vote
then-
in June on whether or not, what's Art's company, Ironworks, can come back with meeting our request to have a one-step project for vehicular use.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm not optimistic about that personally, but who knows?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a periodic
But,
update
yeah,
to see
this
if
is
he actually is
interesting,
doing
yeah.
something and working on it. And
But it would be interesting to know if these folks have a track record of working with PennDOT. 'Cause I'm-
I didn't see PennDOT itself on their list. I saw Beaver County, Pennsylvania.
Well, here's
But-
Pennsylvania Department of the Tunkahonnet Creek Bridge and then Beaver County, but here's one, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there's one PennDOT back in Tuckahoney, and these are going from the newest on their publication, which Eric gave me, to the oldest at the bottom. And some of those go back into the teens at the bottom.
I believe they're probably a subcontractor on a lot of the jobs, doing the steel work
Yes,
itself and the
yes.
hot riveting, the
They
things
don't-
what they're skilled in doing.
They list their price as their portion of the project.
Right.
And they don't list the total cost of the
total of-
project. So in all fairness, but
There's a different general contractor overseeing it, and Bach is a sub to the general contractor.
it's what it
A
appears.
lot of times.
Okay.
And
So-
PHNC puts out, I think, a biannual newsletter about the bridge. They have an Iron Trust newsletter. They have a picture of Bach doing a bridge up in Schuylkill County like last summer. But anyway, but one point of information, I don't know if you could answer, Scott, but I was trying to get the comparable data, this Hall Bridge down in, below Dillsburg. And I thought if we could get the plans and specs, it was a C.S. Davidson project from York County, we would learn a lot.
Yeah, so
It's in Crawltown.
I'm still in the process of working on that. So essentially, I went to CS Davidson first. It is not their data to release, so I then went to York County, and I'm trying to be sensitive to the amount of administrative time they'd probably have to put in to release all those documents. So I believe they have just recently directed me back to CS Davidson with permission to release said documents.
Okay.
So
And we can
I should
narrow
be
it
able to
down.
get
I
you
mean,
something.
I noticed even Jason had sent the information on
Yeah.
McCormick Road, and there was several hundred pages really, but a lot of it was the prevailing wage information, stuff we don't really need.
Yes, you're going to get something.
Yeah.
And I think then what we can do is once I get you some stuff, we can go from like, hey, how much more of this do we want? Or, hey, it costs us this much to get this, or it costs us nothing, and we can just go forward. You know what I mean?
And then, yeah, and another thing I did, I realized, and I was going to share this with the board, didn't get to doing other things. The Hall Bridge was renovated by Davis in 2019. I took pictures of it like about a month ago. I don't know if you remember that and shared that. But there's the historicbridges.org. It's the big organization, tracks all the bridges. Their pictures are from like 2013 or something. So we could compare like the before and after pictures. And you can see the changes like for the guide rails of how the added steel they put on to support it. And then when you get the narrative of the bid documents, I think you'll be able to see more. I think that's probably the PennDOT required issued for vehicular.
And is the Hall Bridge vehicular?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? We will have a short executive session, for attorney-client privilege update in a matter of legal interpretation. And with that, I will we will recess into executive session. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen and staff, for coming. And no action is proposed from the exec session.